Okay, so I just paused it and I just put the book down and turned it on again. But this is what I really need to communicate to you guys, because I think most of you have written books. And I remember when I first got published, I had to have the next contract before I finished the first book, and the next contract. And with illustrators, that's easier because illustrators do more books than writers. You know, writers, I think, maybe have a book come out every year or every other year, and novelists is what I'm thinking, and illustrators, we might have 2 books, you know, sometimes 3 in a year. But I remember the days when I was like very tense about not having another contract. And my brother-in-law, I was really worried when I first was getting, you know, finishing Sing Froggy Sing, which is this book, which I love, okay? And that now what was I going to do? And he said, well, success breeds success. So you try as hard as you can to make it as great a book as you can, and work really well with the publisher and everything. And then sure enough, I got another contract, and then another contract. But one day I realized something. I really got into this because I had my own books. I had 10 manuscripts that I really wanted to do. And I never really worked on them because I was always working on these other books. Not the way I needed to, not immersing myself in those books for like the 6 months that's necessary to do the black and whites. So I purposely kind of, I'm not going to say I purposely didn't have a contract, but the moment I didn't have one, I didn't really pursue trying to get another one. And I took 6 months. I was very conscious of taking 6 months off and doing nothing but working on the black and whites for the Amazing Watercolor Fish. And I sat here and I surrounded myself with physical things. I had I still have it. Hold for just a second. Let me see if I can move this. Okay, so I had a 2 bowls actually with fish in them and paints, and I started making these little Play-Doh fish, which I've done many times on YouTube. So if you want to see how those are done, you can go there. But I lived in this world, and when I would walk in the studio, it felt like I was walking into Ashley and Mikey's home. You know, somebody asked me to draw a picture of myself every day, and I drew a picture of myself drawing, and the fish were flying all over the place, and my husband was peeking in going, oh, wow, and you know, that's where you need to be. So here's the thing that I discovered that was the most surprising thing I discovered about this business of publishing books. When you don't have, and I heard this from Sally Field. She was talking to Robert Osborne right before he died, and I was in an airport and I looked up and she was giving this interview, and she said, you really treasure those times when you don't have a contract, and those are the times when you create your greatest work. And so that's what I'm trying to do now. I have been working on my novel for about 6 months, and I am just so in love with it. I have maps everywhere here of Mexico and South America and North America and Spain and Europe from the 1530s, and I'm completely in heaven. It's the thing I've always, my whole life has been leading up to this. So this is your book. This is the award-winning stuff. This is where everything's created. You get help here. I mean, when you start production, and there's great skill to rendering, certainly, right? And I thought I took out some pieces that I keep. This is a really thick piece. I think this is 300-pound arches of the characters that this was the very first time I painted Ashley that I thought it was Ashley, and I love this. So, you know, you start to put in color, you start to work with the style, and hopefully you're to the point where you don't even have to think about your voice as far as an illustrator. you know, and so let me see if I have another piece. Here's a piece from the final book. And at this point, I had started working back to scale again. So this is the final piece, right? And you can see where it was taped down and stapled. And man, I just to feel this, it's just incredible to me. And nobody ever gets to see this. I used to take all my illustrations out on the road, but I don't anymore. Okay, so production. Okay, production is where, if you're in the studio, music studio, that's where you lay down the tracks, where the performance is really important, and all of that is done. As far as getting it down on paper, getting it down on tape, production. And I think this is where most people think everything happens, but in fact, this is where everything happens, right? This is nothing, there's real glory in, you know, I've told people before, getting to this point, well, that's just the icing on the cake. That's where this is the reward you get for doing this. But this is actually the most rewarding part. So then, after execution, you submit it, you know, to the editor, and they start to go over everything, and they start to make recommendations. Okay, and that's post-production editing, and that is, you know, obviously a novel when the editor says, okay, you know, this needs to be different here, or this is causing me some trepidation. Okay, here, the biggest lesson I ever learned about editing is this. I studied with E.B. Lewis for 3 years. Every week we studied on just over the web, you know, through Skype. And I would draw or paint, and he would actually see, and he'd go, oh, no, you can't, you know, that doesn't work. You know, have you thought about this? Have you thought about this? And you know, I would like, at first I would be like curled up in a ball on my bed after every session. But eventually I started to understand something, and that is this. And he said 2 things. One, every mark is important. You know, you're conveying your DNA in every mark. And if you're not doing that, you need to go back and make sure that that you start back where that's happening. Go back to where it was fun. But the other thing that I learned is this: if you like, if I'm reading a chapter to somebody, or if I'm looking at a picture and everybody, like say my mentor, say EB, or my my editor, or people that I trust say, there's a problem here, you know, you need to do this, and all of them say something different, that's just the nature of the beast. They don't have the answer. But if everybody stops at that point, there's a problem. And here's how you deal with that. You don't take this person's option, usually the publisher, right? And you don't take yours. You don't staunchly defend yours. You know, you look into your soul, and if you think there's something awry, you go for the third option. You make it so great, you solve it in such a great way that no one can possibly be, you know, not like it, or not. It's resolved completely, and it's always that way. It's never. A book isn't written because somebody says, "Hey, this is what you need to do." It's in the air already, but you just need to go further to get it done. Okay, and then the product. So that's where manufacturing comes in. Obviously, distribution. You need usually to do publicity, and so I do school visits. I do webinars and stuff. But the webinars I don't really do to publicize the book. I think the books have a life of their own, and they kind of go out there. But here is basically the whole process, right? And then you have something, hopefully, that you would read yourself, right? And I'm kind of giving you all this because I don't want. I think if you have this up there, you're not worrying about where you are. You don't have to think about it. You just see it. Okay, here's my outline. And the neatest part about this whole thing is this. Where's this one? Okay, the neatest part is that it's a circle. I know, right? Okay, so what's really cool is that you do this book or song or painting, and that painting, let's just say it's a painting. It's a book. We'll make it a book. Yeah, this is really wonderful, Carolyn. Okay, so you know, you have a book. Somebody reads that book and they get ideas. They're not going to copy it. Nobody can copy your book. Everybody's DNA is different. But what are these? Premises. Boing. And it creates even greater things. They're alive, right? So the thing is this, like I said before, this is absolutely, for a novel, I would say it would be right here. And for a dummy, only because you don't want to turn in color, you want to turn in black and white, I would say it was right there. But you have to have achieved these before you submit, right? Because these are the things that we really want to work on. If you're an artist, if you're an illustrator, and you're, you want to illustrate other people's books. And I mean, I've seen unbelievably great artists. I mean, we have the best artists now, I think, in picture books that have ever existed. Your product is your portfolio, okay? And all of these things, all of these steps feed into portfolio. You have to understand the essence of your portfolio. It's your voice, right? And so all of these pieces are that, and that's what gets you your book contract. Okay, so I just threw on some clothes real quickly. I wasn't even as dressed up as yesterday, which was not that dressed up. So let me just, Angie wanted me to read Amazing Watercolor Fish to you, which is where? Wow, where is it? Oh, here it is, down here. Okay, so the Amazing Watercolor Fish. I open up, and here we go. Amazing Watercolor Fish. And here I have the fish kind of coming to life, looking at the book, and it says, "For my mother, Lupe Ruiz-Flores, who instilled in me a love of books." Okay. I wish I could see over there, behind the wall, behind the chair. I wish I knew what life held there, if it is great, if it is bare. Oh, maybe there's a giant tree, a woolly goat, a purple sea, or maybe someone just like me behind the wall that I can't see. And so I lean up very close and listen with my ears the most. And suddenly, to my surprise, I think I hear some fish-like cries. I hear, "Hello, is someone there? Or is the world out there just bare? You see, I'm swimming all alone, but I think someone else is home. Are you a bird? Are you a bee? Are you a fish with fins like me? Please tell me what your world is like. And by the way, my name is Mike." And as I listen to Mike's plea, a great idea just comes to me. I'll show Mike what I cannot see. I'll show Mike what I think could be. I'll paint a picture of the world with lots of trees and rainbows swirled, of planets, castles, fantasy, because after all, Mike's just like me. And every day, Mike asks for more, and so I let my paintbrush soar. There are birds that swim, and ships with wings, and books that do all sorts of things. And every day Mike shows me too. His stars, his hills, his ocean's blue. And every day Mike shows me more than just the water and the door. Click, and everything goes dark. Because when the day is finally through, I know much more than what I knew. It's everything that I could wish. The world is more than just two fish. Catch you later. And by the way, we're going to do I think we're going to do like a 30-minute little meeting where you guys can ask questions if you like. And so Angie's going to be in charge of all of that. But hopefully that this works and maybe helps, you know, you get to the next level. And if nothing else, at least shows you that we're all kind of thinking along the same lines, because there's not a day that goes by where I'm working that I'm not thinking about, oh, you know, this is a really important thing to remember in the overall creation. But I will say, keep your vision somewhere up on the wall, because it is really easy. You'd be stunned at how easy it is to go off on a tangent. Okay? Nothing happens until something moves. So I'm going to go finish a story that I need to finish because it is due Friday. I'm on deadline for a book. So, adios. Bye-bye.